And there's one cairn. I like it. The cairn says to cross there. Oh yes, that's deep. It's up to my down in my pockets. There's always one deep spot. That rock is slippery. First time I crossed, I got lax here in the ankle deep water, took a step, slipped on a rock and bent a trekking pole. So don't give up till you're all the way across. Ouch! Ouch! And we're not all the way across. This is the island. Across the main channel. You gotta see what's on the other side of this. There is more flowing water on the other side here. Generally it's stiller, but sometimes deeper. So let's see what we got. All right. I'm already wet to the bottom of my thighs, so I can go in a deeper section and not deal with the faster flowing water. Tail gunner here. As you saw, that last video came out, I did successfully cross the Queets River. Heading up the Queets River again this Labor Day weekend. I do not have my iPhone with me because of the river crossing, so we're doing this entire thing on the GoPro. And I have just realized that because I attached the GoPro to the pack to cross the river, I left the tripod back at the car. And I have no attachment on the trekking pole either. So either all face shots are going to be me holding the basic GoPro at arm's length like this, or you may just get a lot of pointing down the trail shots this trip. So we're going to make some miles today. I've seen there's a lot of cars at the parking lots at the trailhead, so I don't see anyone, but I'm obviously not alone over here. Alright, till later down the trail, we'll shut this off. This is the first and only sign on the Queets Trail. Last time I was actually inside a Park Wilderness Information Center back in 2019. Staff explained that they keep it as a primitive trail for those seeking a more wilderness experience. This makes the Queets Trail deceptive. On the maps, it looks like a simple follow the river trail. However, with reroutes due to washouts, blowdowns, and limited trail maintenance, any data source on the trail route is out of date. The primitive nature of the Queets means that there are few established campsites and no facilities. This translates into the search for durable surfaces to camp on and digging cat holes to do your business. Finally, it should be noted due to the low volume of visitors, it can be the better part of a day before you see anyone if you need assistance. I was actually asked by another hiker not to promote this trail so novices don't come out here and get themselves into trouble. But I think education is better than ignorance. However, if you're looking for a trail you can cruise down, roll into an established campsite, and have access to privies, this is not the trail for you. We're heading up the Queets. One of the first questions you come to is this. The trail goes down into a creek. There appears to be a trail going off the other side, but there's a bunch of sticks across it. like you're not supposed to go that way, but there's no other obvious way to go. However, in this case, someone actually has helped us, because I do know from past years, the trail actually just goes up this creek. You can see a red flag there on the stick indicating that this trail goes up this creek for about 100, 200 feet or so. Now, the first year, there were no flags, and I can't imagine the trail going just up a creek. So I actually went over this pile of sticks. It does get you back down to the river, and then it peters out down there, and I spent the better day of wandering down the lowlands along the river until I was quite convinced I was no longer on the trail and just backed out. So we're going to go on up the river here, the creek, and then this will dump out later into what in my other video I called the Savannah of the Queets, a large grassy field, which other people have commented is probably an old homestead, which makes sense because although there's no foundation, I found a square hole that would be a logical size for a cabin. So I think Savannah of the Queets is an old homestead. I said if it wasn't for my prior experience and these red ribbons, you would begin to question your sanity of following this. Because this is a creek bed. No water at this time of year. And really the only clue is that there is no other way to go there at that junction. You either ignore the cross sticks or else you go one way or the other on the creek. Going down the river, you quickly get to points where it's not passable. All right, this is longer than I quoted because it's probably measured in yards and not feet. Eventually you get to something like this, where the trail comes out of the creek bed, and you realize that following it, you either aren't crazy or you're following a bunch of other crazy people. I don't know what it is out here, but maybe we're all crazy. Well, some people might look at this and just think it's just a washout, step down and step up and can continue. However, it's 5 o'clock. I'm thinking, leave the pack up here, and I've got a nice slide down to the river and a relatively easy climb back up. So we're taking some time here. I don't have to take the pack all the way down to the river, but that hillside is still navigable without a pack. So that's what we're going to do for about an hour here. What do you get when you cross a washout with a blowdown? Answer: you get up in a semi-marshy field with no clear indication of where you're supposed to go. After dinner, stopped there at the first washout. I continued along the ridge until the trail disappeared off the edge of the cliff. So I started working my way along the edge there as best I could until I encountered a blowdown, which then forced me to come inland away from the river. I've now worked my way around that, and I've now found myself in this semi-marshy, grassy field here, with no clear indication of where to go. I can see about 4 different paths that people have taken through this, but there's no consensus of where we're headed to. We're scanning, looking for any sign of on the far side. We know we have to go to that tree line. We just don't know where we're going to. And now we've encountered a stream in the middle, which is a fairly large drop down into some somewhat deep water, but I have just spotted this log down from where I am, so I'm going to work my way down to that log to get over this stream. I've now crossed the log, making along an alder that has fallen, and now I have a target. I have spotted my target. I see a orange ribbon up ahead. Beyond that, I see a second orange ribbon, and I can see all the 4 paths that had diverged originally are beginning to come toward one of those 2 orange ribbons. So we have made it across this expanse. I have come to the first ribbon. All right, when you come to a T intersection, first major T intersection trail, someone has put a log here indicating the trail goes to the left. Technically that's correct because that is the trail up to the main Queets River. However, the trail to the right is a legitimate trail. It goes down to Lower Crossing. Lower Crossing is the area that allows you to cross over into Sam's place, which is an old homestead. Be warned, the river can be up to a waist deep at that point. But in addition to being a trail to the river, which of course means you could get water, it's also a trail. Now I should not tell you this because I've camped here every time I've come, and it's always mine. So I'm letting you in as a little secret. I hope all my subscribers aren't here having a party next time I try to come up here, but there is some great camping down here as well. The GoPro is indicating this battery is about ready to die. So I'm going to try to get this in on this battery so I don't have to reshoot this. So before you drop down onto the Queets riverbed, you come to this absolutely fantastic spot here. Fire pit, logs to sit on. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. At least 3, 4 if you're friendly and in a pinch. That out over there is a cat hole hill. That is where all the cat holes are down that trail. However, tonight, I've already taken my pack off. I've decided I'm going to stay down at the river. So you come down this little line, little row. Now, if you're not using bear canisters, you're just having a bag, you have this absolutely perfect hang right up there. Comes off the cliff, it comes out over. It is the absolute perfect hang. And with a little bit of practice on a few attempts, you can get it over there. Anyway, just shut off. Morning, Tail Gunner here on the Queets River. I am still at Lower Crossing. I recorded that last night, but I wanted to take an opportunity to show you something. So right up there is Lower Crossing I pointed out last night. Well, let's span around and show the shallow rapid area right down here. So the Queets River changes every year. 2 years ago, these rapids were not here. There was no potential crossing down here. And what you expect one year for a crossing or a depth, it will be totally different the following year. Coming down the trail here, I see an orange ribbon ahead, and now I see why. This is the exit ribbon for the other side. Ahead of me is a large tree, maybe 6 feet in diameter. It's got orange ribbons tied to broken branches in the middle, and orange ribbons on the far side of this draw. Off to the right from here, there's an even larger tree, maybe 9 to 10 feet of diameter. Looks like it may come down first and hit this one. This tree is not walkable for me. It would be the tree of death. Just too many broken branches sticking up. I now managed to walk through that draw area. It's not nearly as easy as it looks. That ground is not level. Every step required a poke at the tree pole to figure out where level ground was. And then beneath all that canopy of green, there is an unbelievable number of broken branches. Looks like these two trees have come down and just buried the trail in their debris. A little further down the trail, one descends a very steep, rocky, almost staircase-like section as the trail drops back down to the river, and we enter the Spruce Bottoms area where there are several good developed campsites. The first one we come to is easy entrance to a sandy beach, room for multiple groups because I've actually camped here one side of the entrance trail while some fishermen were set up on the other side. Since there's already a tent set up in here, I'm not going to enter while filming. In being the first site that one comes to, a lot of the first timers will take this one because it looks so nice, and it is. You got easy access to the river, there's a nice swimming hole there, or as I said, people have been fishing here before. But if you're ahead of me on the trail and you get here first, you're welcome to take it because my preferred site is on down the trail here a little bit. I'm going to point out 3 sites in this video, but there actually are other sites in this area that are not obvious from the trail, and I'm not going to identify where they are tucked away. One or two of them are my other favorites, although my lady subscriber found me at one of those, and it was enjoyable having dinner with you and your companions there on what was it, the night of the 4th that we all got together? Here we come into the second side. It's not used very often, I can tell because it's sort of overgrown. I think that might be because of not the ideal river access, but it is level, and if the other sites were taken, one could certainly be forgiven for camping on the foliage that's starting to sprout in this level campsite. Moving on down the trail, the third site comes up more quickly. It is the of the sites that are visible from the trail, it is clearly the best site, and the experienced hikers in this area are the ones that will come down here and grab this one. So a little further back from the river, But it has an easy path to the river. You got this huge tree you can put multiple tents up against. Very level, more level than the first site, and fairly secluded back here, although the trail is just on the other side of a low bushes. Just after the Spruce Bottoms camping area, the trail crosses a side channel of the Queets that also collects a small stream, going onto a long, narrow island. The main trail arches into the middle of the island before coming back and recrossing the same channel at the eastern end of the island. Those in the know can take a hard left on a lesser used trail as soon as you cross and just come down parallel to the channel, saving yourself a few steps along the way. Also, when you get to the eastern end of the island and cross back, there is a great little lunch spot and a good spot to collect water from the river, as a good point to tank up the water bottles as the trail leaves the Queets here for a period of time. I'm on this random river bar here along the Queets River. Just down from where I'm camped, there are a lot of elk and deer prints. So when I set up here, I sort of took some driftwood and made a feeble, ineffective barrier or a sign of my spot here. Obviously, I have no idea whether they pay any attention to that, but I did not want to be out. And then right behind me, I have this big pile of driftwood. I was sorry for the sun glare, but I do have that right behind me. So I didn't want. So that's one reason I pitched where I was. Is I wanted to be behind that. So if they're coming down or upriver, they'll be out that direction. But that is where I am the second night. And now I really have to get dinner. Morning on the Queets River. That's where I slept. I had a very nice sleep. Of course, I think I was so tired I could have slept anywhere. Nothing came out of the woods last night to visit me, as far as I know. We have the berry canister there with today's lunch ready to go into the pack. I always take the lunch out so that I don't have to get into the berry canister during the day. We have a little pocket rocket down here in my heating area. Just because there's a nice level windbreak area down there. However, those logs are not comfortable to sit on. So, I've actually been taking the food up here, the end of this log, where I've been sitting on the end of that log eating. Right now, my gravity-fed system is feeding the day's water into my pack, which I previously collected from the river, and I also have about a half liter in there, so I don't have to worry about the bladder going dry and having no water. I saw two fishermen downstream late evening, so they are obviously camped somewhere back down there. But Queets River, morning of September 3rd. I'm not going to say anything because words can't do this idyllic spot any justice. Anybody home? Viewers of my 2020 video will instantly recognize this massive blowdown of a double trunk tree, each trunk being 5 to 6 feet in diameter, with a third tree that was behind it, which completely blocked the trail and brought our hike last in 2020 to a half-hour delay while we evaluated the options of getting around that mess. Fortunately, the trail crew has been up here and has cut a new route back through here behind all of it. Instead of trying to cut through 12 feet of wood, they decided it was easier to go through this area, which looks like it didn't really have any obstacles in it other than low brush. And that is where I popped out in 2020 out of that mess. So that coming up here on another river peekaboo where the river is chewed away at the edge of the bank and the trail is on the edge and being beaten back into the brush by hikers. And looking upriver, we can start seeing some of the trees that have become casualties, and then in the next spring runoff, these trees will be heading downriver to points unknown. Two p.m. on September 3rd, I'm setting up a base camp here before heading up to the edge of the 2015 Paradise Fire burn zone. A little over a mile past Bob Creek, you start seeing the remains of the 2015 Paradise Creek fire. This was a lightning-caused fire way up river in the Queets. It actually burned for the better part of a week before people even realized there was a fire burning up there in August of 2015. But eventually the valley filled up with smoke and they realized what was going on. Got its name, the Paradise Creek Fire, because the Forest Service, in an attempt not to lose the entire valley, decided to make a stand and build a fire line at Paradise Creek. It held for a little bit, but eventually the fire did jump that line and continued on down. Fortunately, a rainstorm came in and eventually quenched it, but not before a large section of the Upper Queets Valley was lost. Going up trail a little bit further, you get to the point where the fire actually came all the way down to the river. The fire did not jump the river. There were one or two hot spots that were quickly put out. But you can see here that 6 years later, the dead stands are starting to fall down. We've got the river off to their immediate right here, and back there is the burn area. It came all the way down to the river. Beyond here, there is no trail. The maintenance has stopped beyond this point. So you've got the low brush now rapidly growing in the last 6 years since the fire, and you got all these dead things now falling down. One guy who seemed knowledgeable said that anyone trying to go beyond this point, really your best bet would be just to get in and fall into the river and go up along the side of the river, crossing from sandbar to sandbar as you needed to. But there basically is no trail beyond this point going up to Paradise Creek and up to the former Pelton camp area. I have no idea what happened to the original audio here. So this is obviously a voiceover. If there's any lip readers out there, you can tell me what I was saying. But this is September 4th. I'm heading back down. As you can see, the clouds are heavy in the sky, and we actually, about 2 hours after that, started getting rain. It rained for past noon, so it rained all morning. You may be wondering why I'm camping on river bars and not up on the bank. Well, one of the rules of dispersed camping is to camp on durable surfaces, including no plant life. You're not going to find bare ground up here to camp on. Even if you did, this is flat, but it's not level, not sleeping level. A river bar, you can throw a couple of rocks out of the way, drag a stick across it, and get it sleeping level. Here, with the plant life and everything, you're going to be hard pressed to get anything level, and you really can't manicure the ground with the vegetation. As for why there wasn't a follow-up video when I got back to base camp last night after a day hiking up to the burn area and back, that will be covered in the next video. Here are the 10 essentials that every scout knows, minus the spare clothing. Also off of the mat I have my communication, which is not part of the scout 10 essentials, but part of other list. But I wanted, part of the reason for this channel is to do some education, and I got myself in trouble the other day. Even as a scoutmaster, I forgot the basics of what we teach. So what happened? Well, after setting up base camp about a little short of the end of the trail here, I set up base camp about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and day hiked up to the end of the trail in the burn area, as you saw. It was supposed to be a quick hour and a half up, shoot video, an hour and a half back to base camp, and time to have dinner. After all, what could go wrong on a 3-hour tour? Let me use my Garmin data to explain here. Consider line XY with triangle ABC in the middle. X is where my base camp was. Y is where the trail ends at the burn area. So I hiked up. Segment AB of the triangle is the trail I used going up there. After then I returned, but when I get to Bob Creek is a 2-channel creek with a brushy island in the middle, and the trail does not go straight across. So as I crossed Bob Creek, I picked up the wrong exit, and then I went from B up to C. When I got to point C, I realized I was off trail and had no idea where I had made a mistake and how far back I would have to go to correct it. And the issue was, it was now 5 o'clock, I've got failing daylight, and I don't have my 10 essentials with me. I've got food, water, I got the Garmin, but I have no light source. I have no way of making fire. So at this point, I evaluated and decided my best option was basically to bushwhack. So I bushwhacked from C, where I realized I was off trail, heading west, heading back toward the river, and eventually I intersected the trail. However, it was getting late enough at this point that I was beginning to think of Plan B. Plan B was, if it got dark, I didn't want to be in the woods. Woods are not navigable after dark, obviously. So I was thinking, if it got to the point where I was losing light, I would have to go cut to the river and just try. I thought I could navigate down the river in the dark, even if it'd be a little wet at times, but it seemed better to being in the woods. That turned out not to be necessary, but on the other hand, I cut it very close getting back to base camp, pulling in way after sunset in that golden hour where you've got fading light. So, lesson learned. I'm an old scoutmaster. Always take the 10 essentials in some sort of day pack or pouch or something. You never know what's going to happen out there, and the unexpected happens, and we just don't want to support search and rescue that much. This area I'm hiking through right now is not part of the trail. It is silted in Oxbow, and I'm taking a shortcut directly across from it. To explain how I got here, I'm going to jump over to my Garmin data. Here you can see the, first of all, ignore the line with the 2 black slashes through. That's just a Garmin error. But for the last 2 years, I have dutifully gone up and around this Oxbow, following the main trail, looking to my right, going, why can't I just cross across that area? So I set a waypoint represented by the red flag there on the way in, and then on the way out, I exited the trail and just hit across this silted in Oxbow here, heading for my waypoint, knowing in the worst case that I could just backtrack. Turned out I got to my waypoint just fine, so I now have my own little alternate shortcut, and in a future year I may explore going further, closer to the river, and seeing if there's stealth camping possibilities there. We have just come down here to this junction. That's a creek bed, but there's a viable trail there. There's a viable trail here. So you stand here and you wonder, which road less traveled shall you take? But one has a better claim to fame than the other. Scan around, and then you finally realize that someone has left 2 sticks crossed there, indicating that is not the way to go. Therefore, that is the way to go. Bear, 100 feet. Here's the plan. All right, enter the river up there, walk along that gravel spit that has water running across it till we get down to that end, and then we'll cross this 3rd channel on the toward the end there, not all the way down, probably right about there. I said 3rd channel, you see 2, I've already crossed 1 channel, which wasn't difficult. All right, that's the plan. Basically, I'm going to angle down go downstream and angle out. That'll get me through most of the water, and I got just that one last channel to get across. Why wasn't it this easy coming in? Always pick a nice warm day for fording the river. Tail gunner here, wrapping up. Just resting here after crossing the river. Today is September 6th. Went in on the 1st, so a half day, 4 days, another half day, so you can call that 5 days or 6 days. Made it up to the burn area. Came on out. Heard elk very close to my campsite last night, but I did not see them. Ran into that bear this morning. River's been running about between 640 and 680 both times I crossed it. We had rain on Sunday that bumped the river up, and it was one reason I waited and come out on Tuesday to allow the river to drop back down. After the fact, voiceover insertion here. After I finished filming the last segment, Chainsaw Packing Llama and trail volunteer Ernie Vale showed up. He asked if I had seen a large blowdown that the trail reports were reporting blocking the trail, and I tried to refrain from using profanity and explaining the tree of death situation that we had to cross. Also, the guy who was clipping the trail and doing some of the blazing, I know you asked I not use your name, but I want to still give a shout out and thank you to you. Without your help and work up there, newer users of the hikers on the Upper Queets would not be finding their way near as easy. So your work is also really appreciated. Other shout out goes to my family, especially my sister, for keeping me apprised of the river volume and flow while I was in there, especially after that rain we got on Sunday. Now back to our regularly scheduled ending. Next trip, weather permitting, and as long as the temperatures don't get too cold too fast, plan to go up to East Quinault and Cheyenne Valley in October, and do a video on Cheyenne Valley Chalet and its current status. Until our next video, we will see everyone.